you have everybody on, or should we? Do you think you have everybody? Wait a minute or two. What's your normal number?
You
Um,
can start probably, and then as people filter in, we'll let them in through the call.
Okay. So, hi everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Janice Weiner. I am the state senator from District 45, which is most of Iowa City and University Heights in the People's Republic of Johnson County. But I am also the Senate Democratic leader and was elected last November after the general election, survived through this session, gained a seat in January. We're about to contest another special election up in Sioux City. So my goal is to do that again. But trying to keep this sort of weird group of people working together. And happy to be here.
Okay, so I guess is there any specific issue you want to talk about, or you want to kind of go with questions that might?
I mean, I'd be happy to go with questions. I mean, if we look at, I can give a little bit of other introduction. Sort of, if we look at, we can see what's coming down the pike at Iowa. We see what just made it through the Senate barely today. Either one of our senators voting no would have killed it. Either one of them. It could have been Chuck Grassley, who has, in my view, nothing to lose. There's no way he's running for re-election again. Or Joni Ernst, who has a tough road to re-election now. It could have been Josh Hawley. It could have been Lisa Murkowski. It could have been anyone. They just needed one more to tank it. So there's going to be, I don't know how delayed, sort of how delayed the pain will be, but we don't know what's going to happen in the House. Obviously, we have another opportunity. We have an opportunity again with the 4 House members to try. The vote was super close last time. A lot of them aren't going to like the changes the Senate's made to the bill, but I don't work at the federal level. I work at the state level. But the reason I'm really worried about what they're doing in Washington is it all flows downhill. And it's going to flow downhill into the state budget, which because of, in my view, GOP mismanagement, is already a deficit budget. It was $917 million in the red this year. They used taxpayer relief funds for it. They're planning to do that for the next few years. We can do a lot better. And one of the things that I've been saying consistently is, where are our leaders? Where are our leaders standing up for Iowans, whether it's on Medicaid or rural hospitals, on public education, on things like Ottumwa losing the best Job Corps state the best Job Corps site in the entire country. There's a whole variety of things on all the research grants that they're trying to ask for both the University of Iowa or Iowa State. I was just up touring the veterinary diagnostic clinic today. It's really an amazing place. But a lot of these, we because of policies that the state legislature has passed, we continue to bleed doctors. And until we both change some of those policies and then deal with what's coming from Washington, Iowans are just going to be in a world of hurt. Even the best hospital systems like UIHC, like what you all have in Des Moines, are really very brittle right now. They can't recruit the people they need to, and our economy is one of the worst in the nation. So I would argue it's time for new leadership that's going to deal with basic pocketbook issues and people's freedom. So. But my first order of business now is going to be to work really hard with a whole bunch of people to win the special election on August 26th in Sioux City.
Okay, so I guess if we want to open up, anyone who is interested in asking a question, feel free to unmute yourself, try not to talk over anyone else, and then Janice can give you guys a nice answer.
Senator Weiner, first off, thank you for serving. Really appreciate it. I know it's a thankless job. First off, would you consider running for Secretary of State?
There's a guy named Ryan Peterman running for Secretary of State who actually seems quite good. Now, my goal is to stay in my current position and grow our caucus, because one of the things that if if or when we win the Sioux City seat, we're out of the super minority, which means that let's say we manage to elect Rob Sand governor, then there are enough people in the Senate that we can prevent any vetoes from being overturned. We can also, this coming year, axe gubernatorial appointments, which may not seem huge, but if there's anybody they really want to get through, they'll have to give us something.
And the reason I ask that is I've just become increasingly discouraged with what's going on. And initially I got involved in ranked choice voting, which, as you know, just got slammed this year, even though it was already defeated. And the Secretary of State brought up another rule. It was just simply a waste of people's time and effort and taxpayer dollars. And so myself and a couple of friends are going to work on, and I'd love your opinion of this, on working to get the law changed that would that requires independents to change to pick a party when they change in the primary. So I don't know how you feel about that. I feel like I'm probably pushing a rock uphill, but I think independents, taxpayers pay for elections.
Yeah, but I think everybody ought to be able. Yeah, I agree in that. Like everybody ought to be able to vote in a primary without having to choose a party. I don't know what that looks like, sort of an open primary, but I don't understand why we would be disenfranchising about a third of Iowa's registered voters.
Well, and it was a 1907 law that put it into place, and of course, the Republican Party, I'm sure, will be against it. Okay, just like they were against ranked choice voting, and but I think it may be a very small step, but I think it's a small, crucial step into getting more people to vote in the primaries, because as you well know, there's not a lot of turnout, and with most of the districts being safe, whoever you elect in the primary is going to be representing you.
Right, and primary voters, because of this, the way this works, primary voters are not necessarily the same as general election voters, and very often, or you could end up with, like if you look at the U.S. the field of U.S. Senate candidates on the Democratic side, which I'm pretty sure is going to still get bigger, we may not end up with the candidate who's best positioned to win, because if, let's say, the other people, we have 3 people in there right now. The other 2 people I've heard may get in are Jackie Norris and Josh Turek. And it just, people live in different areas of the state. The Des Moines area is the most voter-rich area for a primary. So I just, I think it would make for fairer elections.
Well, and I also think, you probably recognize this as well. The middle, the minutes people start moving toward the middle, they get tapped on the shoulder and they said, if you don't move back here, you don't move back here. And this happens on both sides. We're going to run somebody against you in the primary. And look at what happened with Joni Ernst and Pete Hegeseth. The minute she kind of balked at, pushing him forward, she was threatened. And I think Joni's been a reasonably good senator, and she just caved. And now there's even question about whether or not she's going to run again because of that comment. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But anyway, I appreciate your thank you for running, and appreciate your input. And
I don't have a lot of patience with our members of Congress who have no spine, frankly. I've lived overseas in really tough autocratic countries, and I've had the privilege of getting to know some pretty darn brave people. And a lot of them were regular folks who just really either they wanted democracy or freedom of speech, or they wanted more equality. And they knew they were putting their lives on the line, and they did it anyway. And here we have these elected folks who, just look how freed Tom Tillis was after he said, you know what, I don't need this anymore. I'm not running again, but I'll tell you what I think.
On both sides, you have moderate Democrats and moderate Republicans that just can't take it anymore. They just don't want to do it. They don't want to go in and fight an uphill battle. But anyway, again, thank you for running and being there. And again, I know it's a thankless job, but I do hope that we get some strong candidates. for those positions. And I think also because there's going to be so much primary activity this time around with Kim not running again, this is a good time to start that discussion. So, yeah. Thank you.
I have a quick question. With Florida, can you hear me? Just so everyone, I know that people can hear me. Okay, so Florida moved back their elections. Can we move up our midterms? Can we?
I don't know that there's any provision to do that. The only thing that I can tell you is this has been a crazy special election year. We have this special election now on August 26th in Sioux City. I suspect it may not be the last one. So I'm not aware of any ability to do that, but I do think there are likely to be that there's a possibility that we may have even more special elections. This is going to be the fourth this year already.
I guess this is another question. Are you expecting to have a special session coming up? I know there's lots of talk with it, but not going to happen.
They don't have the votes in they don't have the votes in the Senate. They're even let's say you even assume that you get 14 or 15 of the Democrats to join in. You have to have 2/3 majority, so you'd have to have 34 senators sign off on a petition. They're not there, and we've talked to some of the Republicans who voted for the bill. They've been trying to work on their colleagues. It's not happening. So I mean, basically, they're back to square one at the beginning of next session, and it's going to be an election year, and they're probably going to have new leadership. It's going to be interesting to watch, and since we know that, we can also do our best to be part of the bill building and negotiations, so that we actually get something for our votes, aside from splitting the party, which was totally worth it in my view.
Okay, and it does feel that a lot of Republican leadership right now, specifically in our state legislature, has been really failing. They've been struggling they're trying to be too partisan and threaten the legislators that choose to stray away from the pack. How is the Iowa Democratic Party choosing to strengthen itself through this time as we are building back and getting more Democratic candidates into offices?
I mean, it's a building process. We're building in the Senate. They're going to try and build in the House. Part of it is just doing the work and raising the money and knocking the doors. And one thing that really needs to happen all over the state, literally all over the state, is more voter registration. We used to have pretty even voter registration numbers. We're nowhere near that. This is the year. This is the sort of the opportunity year. This is the year to figure out how to do a major voter registration effort. It can't just be the Senate Democrats. It really should be, I think, the IDP that runs it, or it could be the Stand campaign that contributes some, because he has a fair amount of money. Like, create some of our own voters. Yes, we have to persuade some. We have to get the Democrats out, but we can also make new voters by registering them.
Hi, Senator. I have a quick question. So first of all, thank you for coming and doing this virtual town hall. I know that the Republicans are too frightened to do anything quite like this. But I'm very familiar with the legislation that's passed this past session, and I'm not sure everybody is. So can you just kind of go over what you thought was the most egregious and what we can kind of expect for next year? Because we'll still have the same numbers next year, presumably, unless we take the one seat.
Right. So like the worst of the worst just went into effect today, which strips trans Iowans of basic civil rights. First state in the nation to roll back civil rights. And it was sort of done. They showed that they could, when they wanted to do something, they could just push it through in a few days, despite huge pushback. And that's to me, that's one of the biggest problems of having one party in sole control of government. They do stuff even though it's unpopular. They did the same thing with the 6-week abortion ban, with the AEAs and with the area education agencies and so forth. It's not that nobody wanted it, but a substantial majority of Iowans didn't want those policies. And because they could, they did it anyway. And that's not a good place to be in. It's why even breaking the supermajority is helpful, because we can say, like, if you're going to do this, we're not going to vote for a single one of your appointees. It's not where we want to be yet, but it's something. So that was the worst of the worst. There were other, I'm going to have a hard, there was this pharmacy benefits management bill that passed they're now suing on, which they've been trying to do something with that for years. They didn't, they managed to not pass the good version of it, which is why they're being sued. There was actually what I keep referring to as the Goldilocks version, that they could have tweaked it so that it really helped the rural pharmacies and that it helped the independent pharmacies in the urban areas, but didn't risk raising healthcare premiums ridiculously. So that's why they're being sued. And it was a fascinating coalition, because the coalition that was trying to get it right, or get the Goldilocks solution, was a coalition you rarely see. It was the banks, Wellmark, and the unions. Like a very interesting cross-cutting coalition. The thing that I liked about, aside from the fact that it was led to a couple of crazy weeks of overtime, one of the things that I really liked about the anti-eminent domain bill was that it's also a fascinating cross-cutting coalition. And that, to me, is what we really need to see more of in politics here. So there were some, I don't have them in front of me, so I'm probably going to forget a bunch of the bad bills. There were some good bills. There were some bad education bills that passed. They only passed 2% state supplemental aid, which puts nearly half of the school districts potentially in the state on budget guarantee, which means you could raise property taxes. They came into this session saying they wanted to do more property tax reform, lower property taxes, and they didn't get anything passed. They did several versions of a bill, and I'm guessing in terms of next year, I think that's still going to be a live round, and it will be a hot topic of discussion. There were a couple of some good bills that were passed. They passed a really good disaster management bill, very thorough, that will at least sets up a structure of what to fund, where to fund, how to fund it, what the processes are. Somebody put some real time and effort into that, and it was something that we were actually happy to vote for change. They also passed a bill I didn't expect to get through, but that also went into effect today, which is anti-SLAPP legislation, which means it's sort of against filing frivolous suits against newspapers and others, and so that it's basically a law that exists in, I think we're the 35th and 36th state, to prevent frivolous lawsuits that are aimed at curtailing freedom of speech. Speaking of freedom of speech, there were a couple of there were bad anti-DEI bills that passed, and there was this crazy bill to make the University of Iowa create this Center of Intellectual Freedom, whatever that's going to be. And then they passed a law requiring the University of Iowa Medical School admit 80% of the students be from Iowa, as if that's going to keep doctors in Iowa. It won't. That's like less than a Band-Aid. It would be sort of like, I keep telling people, like, just imagine if you required that 80% of the Hawkeye football team be from Iowa. Would that be a winning strategy? I don't think so. But you educate them, they're still not going to stay in the state at this point. They passed hands-free. Finally, there had been a holdout in the House on that, and because it had passed the Senate overwhelmingly a couple of times. That went into effect today. That's good for traffic safety. They passed the school cell phone bill, which a lot of schools are doing anyway. There was another one that just popped into my mind. Oh, we passed another one that to help firefighters who get cancer. That had been stuck because of one senator for a couple of years. Finally got past that. Did more stuff to reduce local control, which seems to be a constant theme. I'm trying to think of what other good things passed, but that gives you a general lay of the land. If you remember a particular bill and you want to ask, maybe I'll remember it.
I was upset with the Baby Olivia bill. That was the one that really...
Right. You're correct. Yeah. So there's the Baby Olivia bill passed. It passed in a worse form. Actually, the version, I didn't like the Senate version, but the Senate version was better than the House version that eventually got passed. Nothing like making kids learn not accurate information about biology. So next year, I mean, property taxes will be on the agenda still. I'm not sure yet. And eminent domain will definitely be back. I'm not sure yet what else.
Mama C had a question in the chat. She said, I do have a more personal question. My husband and I have been trying to have a baby for the last 2 years. Going forward, is it safe to have babies in the state of Iowa? Will there be a repeat of Adriana Smith, the mother in Georgia, who was brain dead and used as an incubator with a big awful bill? Will it be safe, or will more hospitals and OBs close or leave?
I mean, I can't answer that for you. I know some people don't think it's safe to have a baby here, but the Georgia bill, the Georgia anti-abortion bill is very weird, and I don't think the Iowa bill is clearer than the Georgia bill was. I don't think that you'll end up with that issue here, although you could end up with others because of the 6-week ban. But I don't think we're going to have that problem. But I think it's pushing a lot of people. We have the fewest number of OBs per capita here. It's hard to bring them in, who wants to come and practice where you can't really practice, where the people in the legislature, most of whom are not doctors, including me, they it's hard. It's just hard to get doctors here. I just saw another question pop up that we asked specifically about ectopic and so forth after 6 weeks. You're supposed to be able to get it, because that is it's by definition not viable. It's by definition endangering the life of the mother. It's never going to be viable. Plus, I mean, I've talked to doctors here at UIHC. I don't know about other hospitals, but they would 100% take care of it here.
Did anybody else have questions for the senator?
Oh, just one more comment on the independent. There was a bill by Representative Henry Wolf out of Cedar Falls, Waterloo, that actually tried to make, I don't think it got passed, that if you were an independent, you would have to change your party registration 30 days prior to the primary. I don't think it ever reached the Senate. Did you hear anything about that?
No, and I don't even know if it got out of committee on the House side. I did not hear anything about that. I saw a comment come in about water. One of the working groups that I'm setting up in my caucus is about cleaning up our water. The Iowa Cancer Consortium is in the process of doing briefings for all 99 counties with the stats that they have. I just went to the one about Johnson County yesterday. Really, really good, really useful information. Like pretty depressing, but it's good information. But when they do their annual report every year in February, and this February is going to focus on the water. What's in the water. I mean, they made it very clear. It's really hard. You can't do these longitudinal studies. Nobody's lived in or drunk the same water, or very few people have drunk the exact same water their entire lives. So it's really hard to pinpoint some of these things, but certainly there are a lot of contributing factors, and the assumption is that nitrates and other chemicals in the water are some of them. But if you have the opportunity, if it comes to your area, and it's available on Zoom for every county too, highly recommend that you listen in or go if you can. But we have to. One of the interesting comparisons that I drew from that is the person who was presenting said, we know these things. We know these things that you can do that will reduce, that will help reduce the chance that you will get cancer. A variety of, like being active, eating good foods. Like don't smoke, don't drink too much because alcohol is a carcinogen. It's sort of a whole variety of things that and then they said, and we've seen that even though people know this, they still do these things. If on a voluntary basis, it still happens. So to me, that's sort of the parallel is to, well, and that's why voluntary water standards, the nutrient reduction plan, so-called nutrient reduction plan, which is voluntary, that's why it doesn't work. And on the farm side, I think for better or for worse, we just the way it works, you have to pay them to do something. I'd be perfectly okay paying them to not put too much pesticide on or not put too much nitrate, whatever we need to do to start to reclaim our water and clean up our water. So we will put bills in and we will continue to talk about it. I think that the situation this summer is in Des Moines and with the Raccoon River and so forth, has gotten a lot more attention, is really getting a lot more people to pay attention and start to understand that this is a serious problem. I don't know why it's taken so long, but I was told some years ago, well, it's not a winning issue. Don't talk about it. It's like, sorry, I'm going to talk about the water. So but now others are catching up, and it's not. And it's like everybody deserves clean water. It's not anti-farmer. It's not anti-anyone. It's you deserve clean water too. Let's figure out what we have to do to clean up our water because other states have done it.
You've got another question in the comments about how can we mobilize other parts of the state for the special election coming up.
There will be a lot of information coming out, and we will be sharing it among other things with county parties. There will be one of the things that people can always do is amplify things on social media, but there will be, as there were for, I think, the other special elections, huge phone banks that people can call into. Anybody wants to haul up to Sioux City and knock doors, that'll be great too. Anybody wants to donate, that obviously elections cost money, and we know that they're going to be contesting this because they got caught off guard in Clinton when we won the special election in January. We don't know who their candidate's going to be. We're going to have a contested convention early next week, but either candidate would be great. So I don't have any qualms about who our candidate is going to be. It just depends on who whips the votes, and then we'll get to work. We're sending a campaign manager. We're sending somebody up to manage the campaign, and we have a decent amount of resources now, but can always use more. So I'm putting a statement out on it probably tomorrow, but if not tomorrow, then on Monday. I'm going to the Senator DeWitt's funeral in Sioux City on Thursday, and we'll be also meeting with the local Dems afterwards. We will do our best to get the word out as broadly as possible, and this is going to be, because this is going to be an all hands on deck moment and election, just as the auditor was in Warren County a couple of years ago. And I think we have the added advantage this time is that we're in an election cycle. We have a whole bunch of statewide candidates, and everyone has an interest in showing proof of concept that we can win in Northwest Iowa. This is one of our targeted seats anyway for next year. We had the seat until 2.5 years ago. We need to win it back. So we will welcome all help and try and get everything out. So I see somebody ask I'm on X Janice for Iowa. I'm on Facebook. In theory, I'm on Blue Sky, but I don't do very much with it. There's a limited amount that I can do. I've also been doing a lot more in terms of videos that get posted to Instagram, both through my account and also Janice for Iowa, and through the Senate Majority Fund, which is our arm of the Iowa Democratic Party that helps elect our folks. But thank you all for everything that you all are doing. You're warriors out there.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like we're just fighting a battle that can't be won. Like when we call and email and text and do whatever to our legislators, does that make any difference at all? Do they actually pay attention to any of the calls, or when you visit the Capitol, leaving the note, do they care about any of that?
Well, I mean, they do. I think the other good story this year is what's one of the bills that didn't pass. The Hold Pesticide Companies Harmless bill did not pass. It just squeaked to the Senate with fewer votes than it had last year. They didn't bring it to a vote in the House because they didn't have the votes. So there was a lot of information that came out on that, a lot of lobbying, a lot of pressure, and it worked. So obviously it doesn't work in every case. I think it'll work more if we can get this state somewhat more into balance through both special elections and next year. And we're also, if you know folks who want to run, we're recruiting candidates. We're doing really well right now. I think we've got about fortunately we don't have as many people to recruit. We only have 25 seats up every 2 years, unlike the House, which has all 100 up every 2 years. So I think we're at about 60% right now. We have other folks interested in other areas.
Okay, anybody else have a question for the senator before we let her go? I will be posting this on our YouTube account, guys. So if you want to go back and watch any of this, or want to tell your friends you really missed out on a great meeting, then you can go to our YouTube page at Bitches Get Stuff Done. And I don't see any more comments or questions. Senators, I want to thank you so much for holding this town hall.
Well, I appreciate you having me. One of my other goals is to get our caucus out every way we can, through different forms of media, through through blogs and podcasts and on radio and Instagram and every other way that we can, so that we're not just depending on things like press releases and newspapers. We have to be out all the time. So if I can raise the money, one of the things that you'll start seeing or hearing is we'll be up on digital all the time, so that we're not just landing in people's inboxes a few months before an election. So
yes, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I do have a podcast, so I'll be contacting you.
Cool.
So okay. On behalf of everybody, I just want to say thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. Somebody has one more question. Mama C, what's your question? This will be our last question, then we'll let you go. Mama C. Oh, there we go. How will the big beautiful bill affect foster kids?
I don't know. I mean, I really don't. I think they will probably remain eligible for Medicaid, but other than that, that's not something that I've looked into. So I'm sorry, I can't help you on that one.
Yeah, it's 900 pages, so we really won't know until we sit down and read it. And
plus it has to get through the House, so we'll have to see if they change anything. They did manage to strip out a couple of good things on the Senate side, or they did manage to do a couple of good things on the Senate side. I think they stripped out the public lands thing, and they voted last night 99-1 to take out the piece that would have prevented states and others from regulating AI for 10 years. So
we'll take it.
We'll take what we can get at this point, and ask for more. Thank you very much. Great to see you all.
Thank you so much. Thanks, guys, for coming. Appreciate you.
Yep. Appreciate you all too. Thank you.